Hey there YouTube lovers, my name is BB8 and today I am going to talk about something I've wanted to talk about for a while. It's not related to a series I regularly do or anything like that, but instead it's to address my opinion on the current state of FPS shooters. You've probably already read the title of this video, and I was triggered to do this video because of Concord. If you don't know what Concord is, it was announced at the most recent PlayStation State of Play, which has been getting a lot of negative reception for its similarities to Overwatch, calling the characters in it a knockoff Guardians of the Galaxy. I will share my opinion on how Concord looks later in the video, but back on topic. The reason I've wanted to do a video like this for a while is because I feel like there are too many FPS shooting games on market right now, especially if it's like $60 or live service. And the online backlash of Concord is what triggered me to do this video on this topic. So, without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? First, let's take a look at how FPS shooters have evolved over the years. The golden era of FPS shooters was probably during the Xbox 360 and PS3 eras. Probably not the Wii, because FPS shooters didn't run the best, but games like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Halo were the games of note. In 2009, Call of Duty didn't have like any microtransactions in them or anything like that. None of these games did. That was a time when Call of Duty wasn't as overwhelming to keep up with as it is today. Black Ops 2 is probably the last Call of Duty game without microtransactions in them, but Call of Duty Ghosts was the first Call of Duty game to implement microtransactions. While it wasn't there at launch, microtransactions were added into Ghosts in 2014, but microtransactions in 2014 weren't as bad as they are today. At the time, Ghosts was the relevant Call of Duty game. There were only season passes, map packs, personalization packs, and voice packs. But over time, the microtransaction problem started to get a bit worse. The issue mainly got worse when Call of Duty Modern Warfare released in 2019, when the battle passes were introduced. I get that Dota 2, Fortnite, and Paladins were the three games that started the battle pass trend, but nearly every online game apart from games that come from Nintendo, are adapting to a battle pass system, which just made each shooting game completely overwhelming to keep up with. And the prices of each individual battle pass doesn't help either. The other issue with the battle pass systems in games is the amount of time players will have to complete them, because this can be an issue for people who don't have the time in real life to get the battle pass finished. Microtransactions can make money for the developers, but for the users, it's just time and money consuming. That's why I only buy a battle pass in a game if it's from a free-to-play game like Fortnite. I don't buy the battle pass every season like I used to, but if there's a cosmetic I like Peter Griffin in Chapter 5 Season 1, there's a chance I might actually get the battle pass. Or Overwatch 2, which is currently my main shooting game at the moment, if the battle pass contains an item related to D.Va or Kiriko, I'd end up buying it. Profit over gameplay doesn't apply to just shooting games. This problem also applies to games like EA Sports FC or any sports game under the 2K label. While Overwatch does have a battle pass in it, it's still good because the development team actually evolved the gameplay with each new hero, which doesn't have generic stereotypes such as rifle, sniper, or anything like that. Each hero has its own unique arsenal that isn't a gun, and that's a good thing. Making sure that each hero has their own unique skill set instead of something generic like Call of Duty, the Tom Clancy label, or even Battlefield, which is why I couldn't get into Rainbow Six Siege, since it had no story mode in it. The characters and their skill sets were a bit generic, and there was barely anything in there to keep me interested in the game, which is why Rainbow Six Siege was a game I abandoned after 15 minutes of gameplay. Not because it's a generic shooter, but a generic shooter that lacked creativity in its gameplay. Because at least Fortnite gets creative with its gameplay every season, and Overwatch 2 gets creative with each individual hero's movesets. And now we move on to the game that triggered me to do this video in the first place, Concord. This game was the first trailer in the most recent PlayStation State of Play. The game has been receiving a lot of backlash from the trailer because it's a 5v5 shooting game. One of the reasons that this game has been blasted by a lot of people who have been comparing the characters in the game to the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm in the middle with that comparison because I can see why people would say that because of the space sci-fi setting, but looking at the characters themselves, Lennox can't be comparable to Star-Lord because he wields 2 guns in the comics. And I don't see a comparison between Hamar and Gamora either because their appearance and arsenal are nothing alike. The same goes for Starchild, which I can agree that's a lazy character name, but in comparison to Drax or Groot, their arsenals are nothing alike. The reception of Concord hasn't got off to a good start with PlayStation fans because people aren't fans of the gameplay, with some of them comparing it to Overwatch and Guardians of the Galaxy combined. Yes, I can agree that Concord did take up too much time within the presentation, taking up 10 minutes of a 35-minute presentation, and I can agree that Starchild is like Winston and Reinhardt combined. But we don't know what content this game will feature. We don't know if it's going to be digital only or physical as well. And we don't know if this game will have microtransactions or a battle pass system. So I think it's too early to judge the game, and I did look into Firewalk Studios to see what games they've made in the past, and it turns out that Concord is their first game. So we can't judge the game since their studio doesn't have a track record just yet. But what is my opinion on Concord based on its state of play reveal? Well, if I'm being honest, it doesn't look awful, but it doesn't look amazing either. The graphics don't look terrible. The world design at least has some creativity in it, especially with that robot character, which doesn't look a lot like a health pack. But the only flaw I can see within the trailer is the gameplay itself. One area I can agree on is that the characters were shown in the trailer to have generic arsenals with nothing interesting about them. One off is probably the character with a moveset that's actually decent. But other than that, every character we've seen so far wields some sort of gun. But overall, Concord just looks like an okay game. It doesn't look awful or generic, it just looks okay. Since at least Concord has a bit of creativity in it, unlike most modern day shooting games, which is why I skipped Helldivers 2, which came out earlier in the year. Helldivers 2 just wasn't for me. I know a lot of people are loving it, but it just wasn't for me. And now for the final section of the video, and I want to talk about invalid opinions on games, and how expectations from the fans can occasionally make a mess in how newer games are received by the general public. First, let's define what an invalid opinion is within the gaming side of things. These opinions are based on incomplete criteria that are completely irrelevant, ignoring aspects of areas of what can make a game good or not. For example, Assassin's Creed After Odyssey is criticised based on its historical settings, ignoring the gameplay, graphics, or story. This kind of critique completely ignores the point of what the game is trying to be. Like, for example, Odyssey, which wasn't terrible, and Valhalla, which was decent, did add their own unique twists to the Assassin's Creed gameplay. I don't think either are awful, but I don't mind the mythology twists that each game took. Similarly, Call of Duty has a similar issue since it focuses too much on shooting, but it's important to remember that Call of Duty is a shooting game, and it was designed to be a first-person shooter, where combat is the focus of the game. And it isn't fair to ignore the genre-specific design and the way that the game is executed. FIFA, now called EA Sports FC, is probably the final victim of this, and it gets labelled as terrible, not just because some people are not biggest fans of soccer or football, as we call it in the UK, but some people don't like that each game that we get every year is the same. This brings us to fan expectation culture. Fan expectations can sometimes shape and sometimes mess up new games and how they are received. Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, and EA Sports FC are the main victims of fan expectation culture, since nearly every time one of these games gets a new release, it ends up not being received well by fans. I mean, Assassin's Creed does well with IGN, but with the fans, not really. I have no problem with modern Assassin's Creed games, since I don't mind the unique twists that each game takes. The only issue I can say I have is the length, and these three often face unfair criticisms from fans who always expect every new release in the franchise to perfectly align with their personal gameplay preferences, which can lead to a lot of negativity even if the game has good quality. So guys, what do you think of the video? And I want to hear from you. What did you think of Concord from its reveal trailer? Did you hate on Concord from its first trailer? Or are you like me and going to wait and see how the game is before actually judging it? So, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and turn your notification bell on so you don't miss another video like this one. And I will see you all in a future video. BB8 out.